Budgeting for your association is not just an academic exercise. The reality is you're in a high-stakes, unrelenting battle. Every day, Mother Nature and Father Time are trying to wear down and tear down your common areas. So how do you successfully defend against these forces of destruction? I'm glad you asked. In this portion of our Get On Board webinar, let's first identify the challenges facing every association. Then take inventory of the powers board members have been given to successfully face these challenges. As corporate officers, the fate of your association is in your hands.
Well, thank you, Paige, and hello. This is another webinar created in response to the content requested by you, our audience. So it's not about what goes into a reserve study, how they're created, how to read them, or the national standards that guide them. This webinar is all about helping you as a board member or manager have the tools to be more effective in funding reserves at your association. And that results in lower tension, improved pride of ownership, and maximized home values. Well, this is the outline we're going to follow today in this presentation. And I'll start out with your responsibilities and powers to kind of set the stage for the rest of our discussion. As you can see here, we feel very strongly that Mother Nature and Father Time don't negotiate. They are unstoppable forces, and they cause deterioration that is expensive, it's predictable, and it's ongoing. And these are the adversaries, the obstacles that we face in the community association industry. These are, you might want to say, the bad guys. And it's very real and very pressing. And the kind of effects that this has is the picture that you see here on screen, a normal, old, deteriorated, worn-out barn. And this is what happens when Mother Nature and Father Time are not, when you don't put up a fight against Mother Nature and Father Time. When you're not defending against them, this is the result. Now, I particularly like this picture because in the background, on the next road over, is a nice, fresh townhome development. And so it's a nice contrast between the new and the old. And you and I know that those townhomes are going to start to look just like this barn if they do nothing to fight against Mother Nature and Father Time. And there's other ways that you see this all around you. You may see buildings or homes like this in your neighborhood or section of town, or it may be closer to you, parts of things. It may be parts of a grocery store or office building parking lot. It may be part of an association that you've gone to visit someone. Hopefully it's not a part of your association, but this is what happens to asphalt. And this is what happens to clubhouses when you don't care for them on an ongoing basis. And the forces of deterioration start to get their, I want to say, tentacles or fangs in your property. Or it can look like this. This is a little 2-story walk-up, and it had stairwells at either end of the association. One of those stairwells was to the point where it was cautioned off and was not able to be used. And you can see it just was left to deteriorate. The metal stairs are buckling. They've replaced 2 of the treads, and someone just said it's no longer something that you should be safely using. If you live right above this, you're going to have to walk to the other end of the building and use the other stairs. So this is part of life. We have to appreciate that deterioration is there, and we have to understand that these are significant enemies that we're fighting against. Now, we're talking about living in community. The old, your house is your home, was a long time ago. Most new homes in the United States are part of a community association. So we're talking about today in this audience, living in community. Some things belong to the association. Those are common areas, and some things belong to the individual owners. In a HOA or planned unit development, the common areas may be the roadway that goes through the association, and the individual owners may control their house on their lot. Now, at a condo or a townhome, the common areas may be the roofing, the painting, the siding, the asphalt, parking, roadways, all those common-ish areas. And other things may belong to the owners, and that's specifically the separate space. That's the Once you walk into your front door, you get to pick the carpet, you get to pick the paint of your interior walls, those kinds of things. And there's that gray area where once you walk out your back sliding door and you're on a balcony, you've exited separate space, something that you own, and you've entered common area. Now, that's limited common area because it's limited in use to just one person, and that's you. But you have to have this idea of common space and separate space. And for the common areas, it's the board of directors. They're the ones responsible to take care of those common areas for the benefit of individual owners. If you're an individual owner, you don't get to do something on the common areas. And likewise, as the board of directors, they don't get to dictate what you do inside your space as long as it's not affecting anything written in the governing documents. You may have some restrictions on maybe your flooring, things like that, but basically you have control over your inside. Now, with this power comes a responsibility, and it's pretty clear in every set of governing documents that I've seen, and I was wondering how many I was going to have to look through to find a real clear example, and I literally picked up the last set of governing documents for the association I most recently was working on, and I found this very clear paragraph in their bylaws. Now, maybe in your CC&Rs, maybe in your bylaws, but you will see something like this that gives the board the power to and challenges them, gives them the responsibility to care for those common areas. Let me read you the highlighted section of this paragraph here. The budget shall contain, not should, not best chance should be, or if you can. It's the budget shall contain an estimate of the total amount which it considers necessary to pay the cost of utility services, management, maintenance, operation. These are all operational budget type things. And then we get into reserves, the repair and replacement of the common elements, and those parts of the units to which the board of directors has all powers and responsibilities. So again, we're talking common areas with respect to or regard to maintenance, repair, renovation, restoration, and replacement. So clearly reserves and the cost of wages, materials, insurance, et cetera, back to operating things. But whether it's this paragraph or one very similar, you need to know that you have been given the obligation and the responsibility at your association to care for the common areas. This is not something that you can take lightly. It's your job now that you've done this. And you may not know this paragraph. You may not be able to find it in your governing documents unless you look. But I'm telling you for sure, if there is an owner that has a problem with what the board is doing, that owner's attorney is going to look at this paragraph as Exhibit 1 for their challenge against the board not taking care of the common areas. So it's your responsibility, whether you're aware of it or not. It's probably in your best interest to find this paragraph that guides and dictates what you're supposed to do with respect to the budget at your association. So be aware of this. So I just want to make it clear that the board is responsible, and not only that, the board has the power to take care of the common areas for the benefit of individual owners. It said nothing of a limiting factor. It said nothing about unless if. In almost all cases that I've seen, the board has a clear and unfettered power to take care of the common areas for the benefit of the individual owners. Okay, that's a heavy responsibility, and a lot of you didn't get on the board to be corporate officers. So let me soften it a little bit. There's this concept called the business judgment rule. And I'm not making a legal argument here, but as I've had all this time in the industry, I know there's this concept called the business judgment rule. And I just want to share that with you, that when the board is operating based on these three principles, the law tends to look favorably on your actions. But these three concepts, you need to apply them. Duty of care, duty of loyalty, and duty of inquiry. So when you're doing your job to run the association, showing a duty of care, meaning that you are doing for the association what it needs, finding quality suppliers, repairing things that need to be repaired, things like that. A duty of loyalty, meaning that when when the association needs the budget to do something, it may mean a few more dollars out of your pocket each month, but you now have a duty of loyalty as a corporate officer to the association, and you will raise the budget to what the association needs. And a duty of inquiry. And this saves you because you as a board member or the manager supporting the board, you're likely not experts in everything that goes on at the association. So you have a duty to inquire. And that may be as simple as, do we spot treat for termites or do we tent the entire building? Talk to the termite company, the pest control company. Can we put in this very attractive flower at the entryway to the association? We'll talk to your landscaper and see if it will thrive there. It may mean asking your attorney about collecting on delinquent assessments, or ask your manager if they can speed up the minutes so you can have a little more time before the next board meeting to review them, or getting information from your reserve stay provider as far as what to do with respect to long-term care of the facility. This is your duty of inquiry. So you have these 3 principles here that help you, if you're doing the right thing, if you're loyal to the association and asking questions, seeking help, it's going to generally put the law on your side. Now, remember that most of you, and I'm speaking to the 71% of you who are board members joining us today, the additional challenge that you probably didn't get on the board to be a corporate officer. I got on the board at my association because I was at a meeting. I think it was my first board meeting, and I was mortgaged up to my eyeballs. I thought I should go to the board meeting and find out what this is all about, what I got myself into. And the board resigned, and I was one of the very few people in the meeting. And they said, well, how about you get on the board? And they asked me to be president, and that way the board resigned, and I was the new president. It was that simple. It was basically an emergency. Some of you may have become a board member due to an emergency at your association or an outside act. Some of you really did get on the board because you wanted to serve. You had the time, the skills to help the association. But my opinion is that most board members got on the board not to be a corporate officer. And this creates a situation where we have all these multi-million-dollar nonprofit real estate entities scattered around the country, about 375,000 of them. And most of them are run by an untrained volunteer board of directors who weren't there to be a corporate officer. And you ask, well, hey, volunteers who have not been well trained, what could possibly go wrong? And I want to remind us all that we got a clear example of what could go wrong June 24th, 2021, just a little over 2 years ago. And that's when it was very clear the consequences, the fatal consequences of ignoring or underfunding reserves. And it's not just about budgets. It's not just about special assessments. 98 people died when at least one contributing factor was significant lack of maintenance at an oceanfront property. And that's what happens when the board is dealing with other things rather than learning what the living, breathing signs the property is giving you are not heeded and they're neglected. So what I want to encourage you all to do is make decisions worthy of being a trustee, someone who's looking after the assets of someone else, or a corporate officer, because that's truly what we're dealing with here. And remember, the corporate assets, they're physical, financial, and those physical assets are in a continual state of decay. So you've got an obstacle that you're up against, and you got to be running just to keep up.
At Association Reserves, we make the present less stressful and the future more secure. If you want to join us in this mission, please like this video and subscribe to our channel. Leave a comment down below on what you'd like to see us address in a future video. Let's plan for your best future.